Hello.
Hey,
Hello, that went really smoothly.
yes, it did. I didn't know what to expect. So, I mean, going back to Not Today's Yesterday briefly, which was the one woman show that I was touring about whitewashing history, it's been in several stages of development over several years, as well as sort of touring each time. And, it's been a part of my life for sort of 4 or 5 years now.
Mm.
And it was really time. I think when you've been with a work that long and you kind of don't know what will happen when that work sort of has its day, and I still hope it gets seen. I still hope it gets booked in the future. But creatively, it's kind of I've done what I'm going to do with it in that sense, and it was time for a new project. But it's always scary, especially when something lasts that long in your life, and then you and then you start to move on to something different. And so I had a seedling of an idea about what and I guess I was inspired by the sort of rise in voices challenging the issues that I'm interested in around, with the Black Lives Matter momentum, and what I felt compelled to do as an artist and as a person. And that was when I thought, okay, now it's time for me to start putting this idea and saying it out loud to some people. And so I contacted two collaborators that I wanted to work with, Andy and Isaac. And I said, look, there's no money in this project. It's such a seed of an idea, but I don't want to create it on my own. I do a lot of stuff that's where the buck stops with me. And I kind of just wanted it to be something a creative, more horizontal creative process. I don't think collective is the right word because, yeah, I can't quite work out how to describe it yet. But I wanted it to start off with different people's experiences and just discussions. So the three of us got together once a week for quite a few months last year and started brainstorming. And the basis of that idea was to sort of look at dynamic relationship, kind of the dynamics in relationships between a black male body, a white male body, and an Indian female body.
Yeah.
And so we were looking at how that would be in different scenarios.
Mm.
So we went on a short retreat last October, a creative retreat, just for 3 days. Out in the woods, so it was all outdoors. Basically we spent 3 days outside, but it was wonderful in a way to not be in a studio and get some time to think without the pressure of creating movement, because that's not what the sort of seed of the idea was coming from. I think for me, with this work, that work, it will be about what movement is needed and we use it, and if there isn't, then we don't use it.
Yeah.
But one of the scenes was the British Museum scene, and it was around the idea of when you put these different bodies on a plinth and you walk around them like in a museum tour, and you talk about them, the kind of language. And I think
Mm.
as dancers, well, Isaac and I are dancers, and as a black man and as an Asian woman, we do are receptive and sensitive to the language used in the press about people like us as
Yeah.
well. So, in that sense, we kind of tried to apply some of that and in building it. So we got invited at that point in the retreat by Chats Palace in London. Um, well, we were asked if we would like to do this small commission. It was tiny, and to be honest, I haven't really sort of gone for these tiny things anymore because they don't let me realize what I'm, the kind of things I want to at this stage in my career. But given that I hadn't produced anything for quite a bit because of COVID, I just asked them and I said, look, it's 1,000 quid. Do you want to do it with us? Shall we try and do it? We'll keep it super simple, but it's a strong idea in itself. I think we can do it with really strong visuals without it becoming too labor intensive choreographically or something. And actually, I felt like it really didn't need that sort of choreographed element per se. Um, and so they said yes. So we started working as a labor of love, and we did some crowdfunding, which did really well. And we had some support from Kala Sangam in Bradford and the place, eventually. And so, as an technically sort of not Arts Council funded project, it was really, yeah, it was really exciting to be able to create something with the knowledge that it was the first iteration of
Yeah.
it. I made a choice quite early on, that I wasn't necessarily interested in creating solo work specifically on myself. I felt that as a dancer, and I love performing and I love dancing, but that I thought that other people would be able to push me more as a physical performer and an artist with the direction coming from the outside. I don't know, and maybe it's a personal thing of a fear of trying to push myself in that way, but I definitely push myself when someone else makes me do it. I know that. I feel a sense of accountability to them and I want to please them and that kind of thing. A lot of things that dancers want to probably do is, please the people who they're working with. And so, yeah, in the sort of early days, I've collaborated with a lovely dancer and choreographer, Kamala Devam. And she and I made 2 shows and a film together, both sort of co-choreographing, working with each other, where we were the cheapest people to employ. So we would be performers in our own work. But it's different to making work on yourself because when you've got someone with you as a collaborator, you challenge each other, and that's great. But as a solo Bharatanatyam dancer, I work with my teachers, I work with my colleagues, so I'm creating and developing the work with them. But it's a very personal experience to develop within that classical art form. That's sort of my home turf, doing that kind of work, and I feel so comfortable in it. And so to find that deep level of being a performer, and in a way for the contemporary piece, Not Today's Yesterday, I invited a choreographer called Lina Lemasani from Australia to work with me because I really liked her theatre, kind of dance theatre work. But again, making the choreography was a dual, both of us were involved because I have a dual sort of body in that respect. She also doesn't know Bharatanatyam, so I had to input a lot in that sort of thing. But yeah, making work on other bodies really excites me because I'm so inspired by some of the dancers I work with. I mean, you just want to see them do everything that's in your mind and put it out there and take ownership of the material you create for them.